Hi. Hello, everyone. As Jenny introduced, I'm Sita Karki. I work for Malin Technology. Uh, the title of the presentation today is Application of Earth Observation for Agriculture Monitoring. While I'm saying agriculture monitoring, you'll see that it covers almost all aspects of the environment there. So my current title is EU Project Manager and Technical Lead. My brief background, of course, I will dive into that in detail a little bit. I have a PhD in hydrogeology from Western Michigan University in the United States, a master's in GIS and also in environmental science from Idaho State University. My areas of expertise, hydrogeology, remote sensing, GIS, and environmental science. So a little bit about my background. I come from Nepal, which is here. When I was in US, I had to used to say, oh, I'm from Nepal. I had to explain where it was. Luckily in Europe, in Ireland, I don't have to explain where it is. Most of the Irish people, they know where it is. Plus even I have met many individuals who have been to Nepal, parts of Nepal I have never been to. So I just try to keep quiet sometimes. So did my schoolings in US and then now working in Ireland, of course. So my first GIS remote sensing project was back in Idaho State University. And at that time, my research was in Yellowstone National Park, which is in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming area in states of the US. So at that time, we used Landsat TM thematic mapper, use that thermal bands to detect geothermal anomalies. So that was back in 2013. So after that, I moved to Michigan for a job. I worked for Michigan Geological Survey for a couple of years. I was mostly working in GIS, cartography, making maps. At some point, I just felt like, I was doing the same work. And plus in the Michigan Geological Survey is housed within the Department of Geoscience. So I was all surrounded by all the PhDs talking about all the jargons and technical names. And I felt like, maybe they're smarter and I would need to get PhD or something. Disclaimer, you will not get smarter just by doing PhDs. so and while also working in the survey, I started my PhD. During my PhD in hydrogeology, I got to do my PhD dissertation in it was a two project based PhD. So one of the project was using MODIS data, which is Aqua and Terra satellites. So using that to detect the algal onset of the algal bloom, which is in this case, it was in Florida, Carina brevis, that particular species of the algae. So use that for early warning system, developing a prototype of the early warning system, I would say. And the project involved using Sentinel-1. At that time, it was very new in 2014-15, So at that time, we used Sentinel-1 to detect the debris flow in Haifa region, which is a border region between, actually it's in Saudi Arabia, but it borders a little bit of Yemen border there. So we use that to detect the debris flow. And at that time, we also got to go to the site itself. And at that time, I had to wear whole abaya and the real costume that the Arabic women would wear. So the purpose was just, we didn't want to look like alien there. We just want to kind of blend in with the people there. So we kind of sneakingly did our survey. After I finished, I was still working on my PhD. I came to Ireland. I worked for Irish Center for High-End Computing, where Jenny is working, and I worked as an Earth Observation GIS computational scientist there. I got the opportunity to work in two EPA-funded projects. Of course, the first one was a remote sensing of Irish surface water, where we use Sentinel-2 and optical data to monitor, detect the water quality, in this case, like chlorophyll and turbidity. Another project that I was involved in was, again, using Sentinel-1 and 2 there, kind of fusion of the Sentinel-1 and 2 for mapping the intertidal ulva bloom. So these are the areas. It's intertidal, that means the wave comes and goes. So those are mostly exposed most of the time, unless there's a high tide. So in those areas, you get the blooms, and there are different reasons the way bloom occurs, as the nutrient in the water and so forth. So we use the Center 1 and 2 to kind of quantify the blooms in those intertidal areas. So those are all enough about me. Those are all my background, and the reasons that I was involved in the past that makes me who I am now today. So currently, as I said earlier, I'm working in Malin Technology. So Malin Technology has been an industry leader in the field of GIS and remote sensing since 1995. We're more than 100 employees. We have a head office in Cookstown, Northern Ireland, also office in Dublin, Portlaoise. So right now, we are located all over the island. Most of us primarily work from home also. So there are many projects. Most biggest one is DAFM EU cap monitoring. We also do EPA GIS consultancy work. In addition to that, in the past, we were also involved in EU clinic framework, which is a ESA, I would say, rapid response research, so there will be some kind of a quick turnaround expected on those projects. So when I'm mentioning about the DAFM EU cap monitoring, the tender or research there, we have a bunch of different research projects under which we develop different markers. Most of them are agriculture related. And again, while I said agriculture related, covers different aspects of the agriculture, not just the crop monitoring. In the case of the EU clinic, back in the when we were in the consortium, EU clinic is already over now, but in the past we were part of a EU clinic where crop monitoring was done in part of Moldova. Another project was involved in detecting gum and resin bearing plants in Ethiopia. So those are the global the research that takes place in different part of the world, where the turnaround is very quick, that means few weeks to a month. So don't have much time to go into each of the project, but I'll just fly through some of the project there. So again, just before diving into each individual project there, EU consideration for agriculture monitoring there is, so most of the time we try to use freely available Earth observation data, this optical and radar, but if that's not adequate, we try to get the high resolution aerial imagery if possible. And again, depends on application, what kind of data we use. And most of the time we try to focus or use open source software if that's not possible, or if we higher level of accuracy or something like that is required, and that's only possible if, for example, when you use the prototype software, we try to get that. And also, earlier, Michelle was saying, okay, you are mapping, avoids having to have all the boots on the ground, something like that. We have the same here, so the main objective of the EO is to remotely monitor or remotely map, so that we don't have to go everyone in the field. So that means saving in the cost. Again, Earth observation provides wide coverage, continuity, consistency, everything. Having said all that, we have a couple of disadvantages. Some of the time resolution might not be good for all the studies. Cloud coverage, of course, Ireland, rain, cloud, western part of Ireland again. So cloud concern, everyone's familiar with that. And then remote sensing in itself is a very, very narrow field. I would say it requires to a level of excel, programming knowledge, data interpretation skills. So it's a very narrow niche field. So it's very difficult to find that expert, a kind of perfect combination of programming skill, environmental science skills. So it's a very niche field, or a very narrow field. So sometimes there is a shortage of expert in this field. So a couple of the projects that we have currently, but again, Malin is involved in lots of different projects, but there's a couple one I'm presenting here. These are just the tip of the iceberg, I would say. So one of them, protein and SIM, which is like straw incorporation modules, I think, measures, sorry. So anyway, it's a cereal crop scheme monitoring from DAFOM. So for this one, we have a marker to just detect what kind of crop it is. So we get the parcel list of the parcels from our from our client. We go through them, we predict it, and then we give the result that goes through the traffic light system. If they are accurate, it passes. If they're like some vague, we go through them individually, what we call expert judgment. So for that, manually we'll do the expert judgment, and then final one, if they are still, they have to get through that, then only those one will go for the rapid field visit or field inspection. So another one, for example, is sometime we might have to do like how many, we might have to determine how many agricultural activities are there in a parcel itself. For example, there might be claim on a parcel for, let's say, wheat or like a barley or something, and there might be different activities in the one section of the parcel. So how do we detect that? So this kind of like how to determine whether the claim is right or there are multiple activities, this kind of events are monitored through our cardinality marker. Other one again, this is again agricultural activities. So like it happens on agricultural land, but if like, let's say we have a wildfire mapping project, so we try to determine how many like parcels or areas are affected by the fire. So again, it's not exactly agricultural activity, but agriculture parcel are affected by it. So it also counts as a agricultural monitoring. Another one, this is one of our past project where national hedgerow map was created for DAFM. For that one, we were not able to use just like our freely available Copernicus data, because that had to be mapped at a high resolution. For that, we had to use a blue sky images, which is a aerial maps. So aerial images. So for that one, again, for this, we had to use the cognition software. It was used because it has the robust segmentation, image recognition, model creation capacity, which was not readily available in other software. So for this purpose, cognition was used. This is a current project, a project where we are determining removal of the hedgerows. Again, why are hedgerows important? They're important for habitat purpose, for conservation of biodiversity. So for this one, we're using Center 1 and 2 and trying to determine where the hedgerows are removed. And the project here, so some of the time we get once-off requests to determine how many parcels are affected by landslide. Similar to the case with the Barney Scarp there, like how many parcels were affected by fire. So similarly, we try to find out how many parcel or what's the area affected by landslide, or sometime areas affected by the flood. Another project there, sorry, I'm flying through the projects there. So we have two projects currently. One is detecting artificial surface using the Copernicus data, which is as a lower resolution. Another one is detecting artificial surface with a high resolution using ecognition and CNN in ecognition. So for that, so we have high resolution where it will will be determining the artificial surface at a high resolution, and then for the one using the Sentinel 1 and 2, it will be at the coarser resolution. So they have different purposes based on their output. And also, again, while we say it like flood monitoring, sometimes like it's not possible to just use the optical data for flood monitoring because of the cloud coverage. And of course, flooding happens during the rainy season or when there is a rain. So at that time, we might have to use most of the time we have to use the center one because it can penetrate through cloud. And again, this is one of the areas affected by Shannon flood, and we try to determine how many parcels were affected by that, or if the farmers can get the claim compensation correspondingly. So these are different projects I was just flying through. And as I said, these are all agricultural monitoring, but it kind of touches all aspects of environmental monitoring. So that's everything. Are there any questions?
Thanks very much, Sita. That was an awful lot there in a very short time. Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So do you do any field work? Do you go out and get ground truthing, or do you rely on looking at higher resolution images for your ground truth, or is it a mix?
So for now, we do not do the client. They already have their own field inspector, so we don't have to do the field work by ourselves. But for us, right, we do the expert judgment. So where we go through the different. Sometimes it depends if it is really like right now. If we have to look at the image, we try to find out with the GE or sentinel images and those kind of thing. If it is not time sensitive, we try to use the past in the aerial images, but we do not right now, like we with the client would already have their own inspector going to the field, the train inspectors.
Yeah, sure. And do you mentioned that you had some work in other countries?
Yeah.
And do you do that for agricultural monitoring as well? It wasn't clear to me that.
Oh, so that was different? So those were ESA EU clinic framework. So those were part of the consortium. So whenever the call came in, so it was rapidly like they would circulate the call through the consortium, and whichever consortium gets that, and then so depends on like the project. So couple of the unsuccessful one recently we had was where there was a flood mapping in Bangladesh or forest mapping in Mexico. So it just these are I suppose they are primarily based on countries where they don't have capacity to monitor by themselves, so disadvantaged per se, countries. But they have now the EU clinic has been now replaced with I forgot the full name, but GDA FFF. So the similar framework that replaced now the EU in ESA clinic.
Great. Yeah, that's great initiative on behalf of ESA.
Yeah, thanks.
And I had a question for you as well, Michelle, just going back to the AI stuff. Did you develop all of your own AI models, or did you use pre-trained models, or maybe it was a mixture?
I'm not 100% sure of that. Our AI team would definitely know the answer to that. So I'm more than happy to come back to the person with a full answer on that if they'd like to drop in their email address.
Yeah, no problem. No, that was from me. It was just out of curiosity more than anything else.
Yeah.
Kind of fascinated at the opportunities offered by AI in this field. With these pre-trained models, like ChatGPT, a couple now have been released using geospatial imagery, and really it's a whole new world. It's a whole new world out there, really, for satellite imagery analysis. Are there any other questions from the audience? I'm not sure if you guys can unmute yourselves, but you can probably put your hand up and I can unmute you, or you could put something in the chat if you wanted to. So I'll just chat away, and there might be a few questions that come up. Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, guys, for coming today. I'm really looking forward to this webinar series. It's kind of been on my mind to organise this for a long time, because I know there's so much work going on in Ireland in Earth observation, remote sensing, GIS, geospatial work. And it's so hard to get a flavour of what's going on, you know, even at the IEOS, which is our kind of national presentation, our national symposium every year. There's always new people coming up with new stuff, and I just thought it'd be a great idea to get like an overview of what's going on, a snapshot of what's going on in the field. And also from the Women in Geospatial perspective to just get an overview of where you come from. It's fascinating to see where people come from, and you know, the different paths they take coming into the field, the different education paths and career paths. So that's really interesting. So we'll be continuing this seminar series on the first Wednesday. This was the second Wednesday because the first Wednesday was not really, most people would have been off. So, but the first Wednesday of each month, and we'll be advertising the next seminar speakers. In fact, I know who they are. It's Eve Daly from University of Galway and Gemma Casal from Maynooth University. So we'll be advertising that on our LinkedIn page, so keep an eye out for the registration link. And if there's anybody in the audience who would like to present, please get in touch with us. We'll have slots open, and we'd love to hear about what you're doing. This is a community building exercise, so do come on in, let us know what you're up to, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, one question there, Jenny, on the chat there from Ronan O'Keefe. I have a question for is machine learning used for flood mapping or burn scar mapping? At this moment, no, because again, for machine learning, as we know, we need a lot of training data, and if it could be done without machine learning, why not? So right now, for this, like for flood mapping and burn scar, we don't have machine learning models. Just for burn scar is simple, burn scar mapping index, NBR could be used. Again, for flood mapping, most of the time we're just using radar backscatter, like whenever there is a low backscatter, that's the flooded area. So simple enough, and not machine learning, ML or AI needed at this point. Thanks, great question.
Thanks, Ronan. Thanks, Sita. So last chance for any questions, and if not, I will let you get off and go and have your late lunches. Thank you all very much for being here, for attending, and thank you, Michelle and Sita, very much. Those are great talks, a great start to the session.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.